professor, physician, epidemiologist. I am Dr. Sri Banerjee. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, core faculty for the College of Health Sciences and Public Policy at Walden University. And in this video, I'm going to be going over not just one theory. I'm going to be going over what I call the theory of theories. So this is a lot of different theories, all kind of categorized and lumped into one massive theory. But before I get started, let me contextualize and tell you what paper this is contained in. This is actually a supplement article, and this is a smartphone self-monitoring to support self-management among people living with HIV. So perceived benefits in theory of change from a mixed methods randomized pilot study. So this caught my attention. Of course, this study was interesting, but more interesting was the diagram, and it was this figure where a lot of the different categories, a lot of the different components of each of the theories are included within here. So let me take a little bit of time to explain some of this. I think it would be worth our while to actually go through some of this. So taking a look at these categories. So there's self-monitoring functions right here. There's theory-based mediators, and then there's behavior outcomes. So out of self-monitoring functions, there's reflection. So self-awareness is part of self-monitoring, building concerns, inspiration, and this is actually covered, and the way you read this is covered in not only the trans-theoretical model, but also in other models as well. This one is actually covered in motivational interviewing. And typically you see trans-theoretical model, motivational interviewing kind of go hand in hand. So building concern and inspiration, that's for both. Reevaluation of self, effects on social relationships, that's trans-theoretical model and motivational interviewing. And then observational learning, that's social cognitive theory. If you're not able to see this, because this is dark, I'm going to exit the drawing so that you're able to see this and a little bit better. So the other portion of this is looking at where perceptions, cognitions, and beliefs lay. And so that is covered by attitudes, perceived norms, outcome expectations, and self-efficacy. And part of perceived norms is in theory of planned behavior. So if you remember theory of planned behavior, that's part of perceived norms and self-efficacy. Now, when you're talking about self-efficacy, there's a lot of theories that explain that. Social cognitive theory, first of all, is good with that. Health belief model, that's a good one with self-efficacy, and behavioral control. So these are all ones that can be important. Now, the one I want to focus on now that we have gone over theory of planned behavior and health belief model, trans-theoretical model, social cognitive theory. By the way, reinforcement, the area of rewards from self-tracking, that's both in trans-theoretical model and social cognitive theory. Cues to action, how to improve, like reminders in health belief model, and then the stimulus control is in trans-theoretical model. And then self-expression. This is done by two people. Catharsis is another area which is interesting. And keeping diaries, relaxation, venting, disclosure. Actually, oft neglected and oftentimes very important portion is catharsis. The support aspects of therapeutic relationships in the moment, availability. But the one that I'm really interested in going over, and I'm probably going to exit the drawing so that we can have this in a light form. And actually, yeah. So yeah, I have to exit the drawing in order to have this light. So and so we went over some self-monitoring functions. We went over some theory-based mediators, perceptions, intentions, catharsis, support, all these. Now the outcomes. Outcomes are always very important due to the fact that you have to kind of take some time to know what makes sense there, right? So it might be an activation state that you are after. So maybe you're trying to get them from pre-contemplation to contemplation. So this is where the precaution adoption process model might be something that is important. There's this in both the precaution adoption process model and the trans theoretical model. What's common is that you're trying to get people from one stage to another in their decision making. So in the precaution adoption process model, you might have somebody that's a bit unengaged, and they're deciding about acting. And in fact, within the model, step number 4 actually says decided not to act. So that is built in within the process. So the fifth part of that is actually deciding to act, and this is a quick visual of that. And then number 6 is acting, and then number 7 is maintenance. And so there was actually an article in rural elderly women's gynecological cancer screening practices. And so Minchu 2015 actually described all 7 stages concerning the issue of cancer screening in rural elderly women. So this is something that's not just there as a model, but really it can really help to understand how it's applied and public health preventative practices, from being unaware of gynecological cancer as a diagnosis, to getting women, as I said, stage 4 is deciding not to act. So women in this stage were noted to have stopped obtaining any sort of routine gynecological cancer screening. And there's actually a lot of disparities that exist in cancer outcomes, especially GYN cancer. So this is actually a very important application of PAPM, precaution adoption process model. And there's the Minchu article. You might part of this might be cut off on your end, but here's just a quick view of it. So switching back to the main processing of this, looking at the activation states as behavioral outcomes, this is where we were, and going from unengaged to deciding about acting to deciding to act to acting. So that's different. That's the same thing as going from pre-contemplation to contemplation to readiness, preparing to act, to acting, to maintenance. So these are behavioral outcomes, and there's some cues to action that get you to action. And so there's these arrows are really important, and then well-being is an important portion of this as well. This is described in some ways, not in the same way that I described it to you, because I have immense familiarity and have applied these models in various contexts in public health in various scenarios. So it's difficult to get to this level in a lot of these descriptions. But just I want to leave you with also this additional information, motivation, behavior portion of skills, um, which allows you, and then SCT, behavioral capacity, so social cognitive theory, behavioral capacity. Two things to be thinking about as well when you're thinking about all of these models all at once and what they're doing in your specific research topic area. So a lot of this is used in the health sciences, in public health, and nursing, and medicine. But proper application takes some skill, and honestly, it's more of an art than an exact science. Thank you for listening.